Welcome to Place and Experience. Indulge your senses with immersive game titles. Boost the excitement with our engaging promotional tools and generous network promotions. Be in control with XI Viewport Management Tool and experience seamless gameplay powered by X Platform. Enjoy Place and Experience as our partners do in over 20 regulated markets. And get ready to go big. Big play is on. Placent.
And boom, we are live. Surprise, surprise. How's it going, Nico? The dynamic duo is back. They tried to take us apart. They tried to keep us away. They tried to separate us. But here we are, Nico. How are you?
Yeah, here we are. Once again, I'm thrilled. I got goosebumps, especially as it's literally from today or this day 3 years ago. It has all started with the Clubhouse sessions on a Thursday morning. The Clubhouse iGaming breakfast, and we all know where this has taken us. I got a new friend. We now share the same haircut, and it couldn't be better. It couldn't be what? Couldn't be better. Could be worse, but it couldn't be better. Thank you, Pierre.
That's for sure. That's for sure. We celebrated 3 years here today, Nico. And as you can see, as you point out here, I'm slowly morphing into becoming Nico here with the hairstyle, and maybe a goatee is happening here in the next coming months as well. We'll see. But yeah, Nico, as always, I suppose today we are conducting a report special, an extravaganza, a Q1-report extravaganza speciale nationale. I'm very, very excited for that, Nico. But maybe you want to start off and kick things off by just summarizing what happened in the industry in the last week with your classic 10 and 5. What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, the classic 10 and 5. So there's a new study which unveils the evolving habits and preferences of US bettors. So the holy grail, as of now, of the betting industry. And YouGov, which is a global research and data analytics firm, has released a research which was conducted through surveys of over 2,000 US sports bettors from mid of January 2024. So while DraftKings, FanDuel, and Bet365 remain the most used sportsbook, 21 to 34-year-olds favor Bet365, while DraftKings is popular among all other age groups. And quite interesting that 2/3, so 67% of the 21 to 24-year-old express the likelihood of creating a sportsbook account with the platform associated with the streaming service compared to 57% across all ages. So quite interesting. Or like our lovely Carolina Pelch used to phrase it, come for the stream and stay for the betting. Another thing, and we will just talk about Evolution in detail later on. They just now signed a deal, an agreement, a live deal agreement with Bet365. So what was anticipated to belong to each other is finally in the books. Put it to the bank. Evolution has agreed a deal with Bet365 to provide its portfolio of live dealer games. So Evolution has been quite active in the M&A space as well. So it's the second deal they have with Bet365, as No Limit City, a company which they bought roughly 2 years ago, has already an existing deal with Bet365. But as said, Evolution now sold their live dealer games to Bet365, and congrats to everybody being involved. Now, one of the most thrilling topics of all time, the European Parliament passes new AML regulation. So whenever AML regulation has caused a headache, as they did not agree on the same framework within the European Union, as of now, they just signed a package which involves several things. Just read through it. Sonia has released a very awesome article about this. And just go on to Next.io. Look up the latest article of Sonja Lindberg about the European Parliament passes new AML regulation. It's worth the read for sure. Then heading over to France, as the French gambling hits a GGR high note of 13.4 billion euros. France sports betting and gaming operators saw their gross gaming revenue rise by 3.5%, and year on year, they reach a total of 13.4 billion in 2023. Shout out to them as well. Heading over to the upcoming Holy Grail, it's Brazil. And there will be no free bets and bonuses according to a reviewed framework. And in detail, it is stated as it is forbidden for the operating agent to grant in any form an advance, anticipation, bonus, or prior advantage, even if merely for promotion, publicity, or advertising for the placing of bets. So, no 3,000 US dollar sign up bonuses in Brazil. So, it will be quite interesting who will get an edge on each and everyone else in this upcoming state. Then another topic of evolution, as they stumble in court as judge denies motion against C&K. So we already discussed this 2-3 weeks ago with Connor as well. It's all about an anonymous report which had been published by the New Jersey law firm Kalsani and Kafensky. And evolution is still trying to get hold on who is behind this. And as of now, the judge in New Jersey denied that the name will be released. But I'm pretty sure it's not the last time we will be speaking about this specific topics. Heading over to the American football, as on the one hand side, an ex-Canadian Football League CFL player, Lemon, has been suspended for betting on games, while on the NFL side, the Eagles center back, Rodgers, has been released off his "you're not allowed to play." So in the US, as soon as you are involved into betting on games of the same sports, you will be suspended. So take that serious, and that's also why we see this kind of educational webinars, etc., especially in the NCAA. Then some numbers. Louisiana sports betting handle surpasses 350 million US dollars in March. And last but not least, Entain and MGM are aligned on another BetMGM investment year. BetMGM might be a top 3 sports betting and iGaming operator, but the sports product is still not where it needs to be. Just remember, the overall market share is distributed within the duopoly of FanDuel and DraftKings, and all the others just try to sneak into this one. And on the BetMGM side, which is a corporation of Entain and MGM, they just stated, we are aligned with MGM that 2024 is a year of investment for BetMGM, investing in marketing and building momentum behind our improved player experience with more US tailored products and new game launches, says Entain's interim CEO Stella David. So we will just see even BetMGM going toe to toe with the big dogs, and it would be less fun. Just remember, ESPN Bet is just around the corner, and Fanatics as well. So we're speaking about 5 companies with pockets very deep, which will fight for market shares in the US. And guess what? The only who will be in a very good position? It's the customers. So in the end, competition keeps you in condition, and that's what's going to happen in the US for sure. That's my 10 and 5.
Brilliant, Nico. That was 10 very exciting points that was not covered in 5 minutes. As per usual, nothing have changed, and I love it even more now than I used to. Thank you for that, Nico. So jumping into our quarterly reports that we want to cover here today, we're going to cover 4 reports: Evolution, Entain, Kambi, and Kindred, that were released in the last couple of days. And why don't we start on Evolution, because it's a lot of movements, a lot of interesting nuggets to dive into. So just looking at the headline kind of numbers here, numbers were kind of what was expected by the analysts. Operating revenues increased by 16.7%, EBITDA increased by 15%, and the corresponding margin was 69%, which is within the estimated margin that Evolution have guided for the year, albeit a little bit on the lower side. Now, the interesting thing with Evolution is that for I don't know how many quarters, but it will be for many, many years, Evolution have sequentially increased their profit. They have published all-time high numbers for as many reports as I can remember, essentially. But this is the first report that Evolution does not increase its profits on a sequential basis. And this is perhaps something that didn't really stand out in the numbers, because we usually talk about EBITDA as kind of the measuring KPI when it comes to how much how much money a company earns. But the big news in this report that wasn't picked up by everyone, perhaps, is the fact that tax regulation for major companies are changing, and the Pillar 2 regulation by the OECD, some of the biggest countries in the world, have aligned that we now have a minimum corporate tax of 15% that most companies in the world, most countries in the world have signed on for. And so previously, Evolution paid kind of an average of around 7% tax on their profits. And it was a question mark in this report how much tax Evolution was actually going to have to pay for the profits that they generated during the quarter. And it turned out, now looking at the report, that the average tax that they paid was around 15%, right? And that's the reason why the profits are like, if we now look at the actual bottom line, the actual profit of the company after taxes, after everything else, is not at an all-time high like in Q4. So in Q4, the company made 282 million euro in profit, and in Q1 2024, that number was 269 million. So lowered by around 15 million, by around 13 million euro. And the result of this report was, even though they met expectations, Evolution, even though there wasn't anything that really stood out in this report, like usual when it comes to Evo. Evo is pretty predictable at the moment when it comes to the reporting. But still, the share price decreased by, I think, around 5% yesterday on the reporting day, down 1% today. So since the report came out, it's down 6.5%. And this is still despite the fact, as you pointed out in your 10 in 5, Nico, that this big news story came out. We were proud to break that news story that Bet365 had now signed Evolution as a customer. And this was the last major operator that did not offer live games through Evolution. So Bet365 did offer RNG games through some of the brands with Evolution, but they did not offer live, and that was due to an exclusive contract that Bet365 has had with Playtech since forever. But finally, Evolution was able to launch with Bet365. So even with that really positive story, they still lost that amount of market cap on the first day of trading after the report today, which I would assume is due to the Pillar 2 regulation that now came into force, and now we see the impact of that. It wasn't really clear, even in the last quarterly report. Evolution guidance around Pillar 2 was that they just don't know exactly how that would impact the bottom line for the Q1 report. And so I think that's the big story of the report in this case, that even with the positive news like Bet365, that investors were waiting for this story for years, that Evolution would sign, even still, and even with the fact that investors expected the Pillar 2 regulation to come into force and cause some harm to the bottom line, even still, the share price was really negatively affected. What do you think, Nico?
Yeah, so first of all, once again, shout out to the people actually working at Evolution, and the both of us. We are fanboys of the almighty CPO Todd Haushalter. So what they are pulling off year by year on a constant basis, and as said, an EBITDA margin of 69% is insane. Usually within the more traditional industries, the manufacturing industry, etc., you are happy if you have an EBITDA margin in the double digits, like 10, 15, 20%. That's it. That's a skyrocketing company. And Evolution has 69%, which is just crazy. As said, it's crazy. So 69% of the overall revenues are EBITDA margin. Then what you already pointed out, first of all, there are always or usually more positive news around Evolution than negative news about Evolution. Especially with their M&A activities, there was this famous picture. So whenever they actually bought a company, they couldn't integrate the beauty of the one company they bought within their overall portfolio. But it just seems like, as of now, especially also with the Bet365 deal, they just, extend their footstep also within the big dogs game. And I'm pretty sure with Bet365 already in the bank, and fingers crossed to even more states in the US becoming iGaming states. If I'm not mistaken, we are speaking about 7, 8, or 9 states where slots are legalized. As soon as they will catch up, I'm pretty sure that the FanDuels and DraftKings, the ESPN bets, etc., of this world will also use the live dealer games of Evolution. And as said, sky's the limit for that awesome company.
Yeah, for sure. And some other interesting points here. So Martin Carlson, the CEO of Evolution, he was careful to say that the launch of Bet365 is not going to have any revolutionary impact on the bottom line in the next quarters or so. Evolution currently works with 800 different operators, and while Bet365 would certainly be in the top 10, I would think in the customers there. It still wouldn't have any huge impact on the bottom line. So we are talking perhaps north of 1% or so impact on bottom line when Bet365 rolls out fully. And that's also a question mark as to whether Bet365 are going to take exclusive tables, how they are going to promote Evolution in comparison to Playtech, because Evolution is still only listed under the games tab currently of Bet365, not actually under the live tab. So it's clear until now, at least, that Playtech is the preferable option of the two in the eyes of Bet365, and we'll have to see how that develops as we go into the year. But a couple of other interesting points here is, this was the first quarter where Evolution increased the revenue from all geographies at the same time. But it is worth noting that Asia is definitely the driver in the increasing revenues that we see sequentially. Asia is the largest market, and it's also increasing the fastest at the fastest rate as well. Whereas an interesting note that I made is that Latin America isn't actually growing that fast, right? So growing only by a couple of percent sequentially, and it's about half of the amount of revenues that North America is generating. And this is at the same time as we are seeing this huge growth opportunity in Latin America that is taking place right now. We are talking at the same time as a major conference is taking place right now in Brazil, just following another really major conference that happened a couple of months ago. And all eyes, all bodies, all companies are looking at Latin America as the biggest growth opportunity out there at the moment. But still, Evolution is somewhat increased revenues quite slowly in that region. So it remains to be seen as well if there would be a bit of a catch-up effect, I feel, in the Latin America market, where we still haven't seen that major growth still to remain to be seen. So I think that's a couple of interesting points. And Nico, I wanted to also follow up on, you talked about the failure to get the name disclosed of that organization that commissioned that report that made some heinous allegations against Evolution. And I thought it was worth mentioning as well that in that story, it's not actually case closed in the story. The outcome is that the judge sent the case back to the lower courts in New Jersey in order to now figure out if the report was factual or not. Because what Evolution is saying is that this report is based on falsehood and it's completely made up. Okay, some of the allegations in the report alludes to Evolution taking bets from sanctioned terrorist states like Syria and Iran, for example, and these are the claims that Evolution is making, the justification for why the name should be revealed. However, the court is saying that we don't know if this is true or not, so they want to send it back to the lower courts in order to figure out basically if Evolution's claim that this report is completely made up, if it holds water. And if that is the case, then the case will continue and it will come back up to the more senior courts again. So still not case closed on that front. And as you mentioned in your 10 and 5, it's not the last chapter in that story, that's for sure.
Yeah, and just touching down on the topic which you just raised with, South America being the land of the new opportunity. As of now, please remember that in Brazil, online casinos, which is the home turf pretty much of Evolution, has not yet been included within the regulatory framework. So as soon as all the online slots, the virtual casinos, etc., not just the virtual, also the live dealer games, will be legalized, especially in South America, I'm pretty sure that this will also increase the footprint of Evolution. As now, with Evolution, we're always speaking about a stock traded company, and I'm pretty sure, of course, you can always make a quick buck in the gray and black markets, but as a company being stock traded, this revenue stream ain't possible anymore, and that's why we've seen the big hit as soon as this anonymous report had been filed. With Syria and Iran just ringing a bell at different people, and that's why the stock went down. But we will for sure see even bigger revenues as soon as we're speaking about more legalized countries and states all over the world.
Yeah. And obviously Evolution isn't closing their eyes to figuring out ways on how, in a legal way, in a totally productive way, Evolution can make revenues from gray territories, let's say. And there's been a lot of talks around aggregators and so on, and a lot of revenue is coming through aggregators, and Evolution doesn't necessarily know exactly where that revenue comes from all the time because they don't have that data and so on and so forth. But obviously, when local markets enter regulation, the dependency on the aggregators become less, and obviously Evo can increase their margins and so on. So yeah, those are some interesting points to take with us for Evolution, and it will be interesting now going forward to see. Another thing that impacted Evolution negatively in this report was currency fluctuations. So that did not work in in Evolution's favor. They point out here that actually increasing in revenue and EBITDA would have been significantly higher if you would take the constant currency. So if there wasn't any movements, we'd actually seen a bigger swing upwards for Evolution in this quarter. And another point to be made as well is that even though Evolution published an incredible 69%, which is a number in of its own right that is interesting. But besides that, even if Evolution published 69% EBITDA margin, that was on the lower side of their EBITDA margin guidance, right? And it's actually the lowest it's been for some time, and that's also something that investors reacted to in the investor call. However, Martin Collison pointed out really clearly in very simple terms that the reason why the EBITDA margin is somewhat down this quarter is because they are making heavy investment into growth. And he said it very plainly. He said, you cannot have growth before you have investments. I wish we could, but that's not how it works. You have to invest in growth and then you will have growth. So he points out that this is investments that will pay off now in the following quarters as well. So something to keep an eye on for sure. So I was surprised actually how negatively the share price was affected, but obviously these are short-term swings and we have to look at the long-term trends obviously in the company. All right, shall we take a little bit of a break here? I think we have a little message from the sponsor.
Tens of thousands of games, hundreds of studios, dozens of Hub Market partners, an industry-leading Hub wallet, and just one API. Hub 88 is connecting businesses to a world of limitless content where the possibilities are endless. Hub 88.
Boom. There we go. Hub 88. Speaking about aggregators, that's one of the leading ones right there. Right, Nico, jumping over to Entain. Pretty lax reports, let's say, this time around. Not that much movement. Results were as expected. Revenues flat. Performance in general was quite flat in comparison to the same quarter last year. I suppose that that is a good thing for Entain because obviously we've seen a pretty significant negative trend in that company for quite some time now, and they obviously had some pretty significant change in the leadership team here recently with Jet Nygaard, who left her position, and currently is Stella David, who is the interim CEO over there. What's your thoughts in general on Entain, Nico? How do you think about that company? What did you think of the report?
So, as you already mentioned, nothing significantly changed in a positive nor in a negative way. It was a rough year, especially if you think about the last quarter of 2023, where nearly all the companies, the big operators, took a slight dip, and then just turning the ship around. Especially that was one of the reasons why Jette was let go. Not all the M&A activities had a positive impact. So there were rumors going around that they bought the companies for way too much, overpriced. And as you already mentioned, although these numbers are not super fancy, they are still decent and reliable numbers. So nothing crazy happened. I'm pretty sure they are just, holding their breath, and they will attack in an even more significant style and way within a short time span. So within the time frame of the next 12 to 15 months, I'm pretty sure there will be big news around Entain in a very positive way.
Yeah, the big story here at the moment with Entain is I would actually make the opposite argument, because there's a bit of a storm brewing, I would say, at the moment. And recently, it's just a couple of weeks ago, in the Netherlands, Entain were ordered to pay back the losses of 2 players that lost between 187,000 euro and 230,000 euro playing on bwin before the regulation in Netherlands came into effect. And basically, the Netherlands court is arguing that because there wasn't any regulation enforced, these losses are void, essentially. Not only are they void, but Entain is also requested to pay interest on the losses. So not only the losses, but also interest on the losses, which is interesting in itself. And so that means that Netherlands is now joining Germany, Austria, and Sweden as the 4th country that have given court orders to pay back losses from operators that have offered gameplay before regulation came into force. This is a potential really big movement within certain regulations that can really escalate, because you can imagine the hundreds of thousands of players that have played in the Netherlands on various Entain brands before regulation came into force, all having a claim now, essentially, to claim back those losses. And if you add that up in these various jurisdictions, Germany, Austria, Netherlands, and Sweden, and all these players that have lost money for more than a decade, for decades even at this point, being able to claim that money back, you can see how that adds up to an enormous amount of money potentially that Entain would be liable to pay back. Now, here's the interesting thing. A lot of people ask why Malta is relevant to the industry anymore now that a lot of markets are regulating locally. And the answer to that is that the government here in Malta, where I am based at the moment, even though my walls are black and the sun is outside, but the reason is that the government is supporting the industry, and it's potentially the only government that you can see globally that is supporting the iGaming industry. And so obviously a lot of the operators are based here in Malta that are being ordered to pay back money have now come to an agreement with the government that the government posted this Bill 55, that is called here in Malta, that is basically protecting the operators from legal liability resulting from their MGA license. So Malta is basically saying that these companies are licensed here in Malta. They are following our legislation. The MGA license can be used in territories where there isn't any license. And as such, Malta is not going to hold their domiciled organizations liable to any penalties that is being imposed on them from outside of the Maltese borders. Now, Germany, Austria, not very happy about this, saying that this is in breach of European law. And the final word is not said and done there, whether this Bill 55 is actually going to hold water on a European level. But this is a watershed moment for the industry, because we have many operators that obviously been operating for many years that potentially could be liable to pay back player losses for all the time. And it kind of like separates the industry into the kind of old school operator brands and the new school operator brands that have popped up in the last coming years to this new reality that don't have that luggage of the old school operators, essentially. And so there's a bit of divide happening in the industry at the moment, Nico.
Yeah. So just to add something from my end to that specific story as well, and to just give each and everybody a little bit of background knowledge. So within the European Union, the idea was, okay, you can move freely and you can decide on your own where to actually offer your services, as long as the services you are offering is not violating the specific law of that specific country. That's why a lot of the operators actually settled down in Malta, as Malta was one of the first countries at all coming up with a regulatory framework. And that's why a lot of the companies settled down in Malta and offered their sports betting, slots, etc., all across Europe. And what's happening, as you mentioned, in Austria, Germany, and the Netherlands as well, it's the same which will apply to just speaking about the Netherlands, to Kindred, Betson, Leo Vegas as well. So we're not speaking about Entain in particular. It will probably happen to all the operators who use their MGA license to actually operate in a different jurisdiction in Europe. It was the first ruling in the Netherlands where player losses could have been claimed. Now Entain needs to pay back. Then also Betano, they will also need to pay back player losses. So it's not just a little bit of luggage. It's a high risk. It's a high risk, especially as you can claim player losses from 5 years in the past. So this will be quite interesting. What are actually the losses, the potential risks, and that's why some of the MGA licenses are quite easy and cheap to get, because you don't know what's still in the books and where these companies operated in the past. And just as a notification in Germany or for Germany as well, there will be a decision by the highest court of Germany just on that topic. And so the legals and lawyers just dealing with that specific topic. If you want to ring them up as of now and offer them business, be assured they are not taking any business as of now, as they are just focusing on this one court decision, which will disrupt the overall industry. And if the highest court in Germany will decide with regards to player can claim their losses, I am pretty sure there will be a disruption in Germany. And I already heard rumors that some of the operators will pretty much file for insolvency. So we will just see a significant disruption just based on the one court ruling in Germany. And so we will, as of now, and there's a saying, on high sea and just in front of a judge, so in court, you are in God's hand. And that's why the overall Bill 55 of Malta is so important for all the operators, because they did not violate the MGA framework. They were just offering games to players. They did not force anyone to participate at their games, but it just sounds like a cheap way to actually claim back player losses. As said, nobody forced them to do anything. They just decided within their own will and within their free will to actually play and use the entertaining factor of our awesome industry. But it just sounds like a loophole to actually get back and claim back player losses. But as you mentioned, in Netherlands, there has been a court ruling. And in Germany, we will get a court ruling within a couple of months by the highest possible court in Germany as well.
Let's keep our fingers crossed, Nico, and wish the best for the industry. So over to Kambi. Let's talk about Kambi quick. Kambi, Swedish company, a sports betting platform that saw its kind of claim to fame early in the pandemic, where Kambi was really early in understanding the future prospect of the North American markets. We're able to sign up some really high-profile customers, including DraftKings, for example. However, was not able to capitalize on the trend from kind of a one product, take it or leave it, turnkey, into a modularized approach, which is more modern to the industry today. And saw the stock price coming down quite significantly after 2021. Now, Kambi is launching their kind of new strategy into the market. They have been for a while, where they are offering parts of the platform on a modular approach instead. Their Tesseract AI product has been rolling out now, and in this report they announced that they've gotten their first customer, which is Quiff, that is now testing out the kind of AI-powered odds making product. That is quite exciting. We did saw flat revenue in Kambi for this quarter. However, they published increased EBITDA quite significantly. I think they increased the EBITDA by around 20%, if I'm not mistaken. I want to make sure I don't misquote this now. No, EBITDA increased by 10%. That's how much it was, and they attribute that to just being able to operate in a more lean form, even though the revenues are staying flat. Also, news in the quarter is that Christian Nylén, the co-founder of Kambi and the godfather of Kambi, if you will, is leaving his position. So they are waiting to replace Christian Nylén with a new CEO, and then Christian Nylén will sail into the sunset, let's say. Another interesting point in the report is that Penn, which have announced a couple of years ago that they were leaving Kambi as part of this drive towards vertical integration, Penn announced that they are building their own sportsbook, and they were going to end the contract by 2024 with Kambi. They have actually extended the contract for another year until the end of 2025. They have migrated part of their operation already to their in-house product, but they still have some ways to go, Penn. So that was a welcome decision to have another year of revenue from Penn, of course. But then one point that I took with me, I think this is possibly the most interesting point, is like now with the launch of the new kind of strategy for Kambi, and shareholders need to understand, okay, where is the company heading and so on. A while ago, Kambi announced these targets that they have set for 2027, and they have very, very, very aggressive targets. So they want to grow between 2 to 3 times the 2022 revenue. So that would mean between 330 and 500 million euro. And the expected revenue for 2024 is 175 million. So they still need to double the revenue there to reach that 2027 target. But they mentioned that they have lowered that target now somewhat. They have lowered it by, or they will lower it by around 20 to 30 million euro. And that is because they are now not expecting California to regulate for sports betting online. And I thought that was an interesting footnote in the report, because as far as I know, no one expected California to regulate online sports betting. And so to assume that California will regulate before 2027 and include that in the outset targets to the shareholders was, I would say, very ambitious, to say the least. And I would be interesting to see what other assumptions are made to reach that type of revenues in the future, in order to reach those targets, if there are more assumptions similar to those in other markets as well. What do you make of this, Nico?
So first of all, hello to your dog, right? Seems
Yes,
like he's
Alpen is here.
just checking. No, you just wrapped it up very, very good. And with the extension of the Penn contract, which will at least keep revenues coming in one more year, is always a good sign. Then they already updated their own platform in a more modular way, which you also see by Gig. They are also attacking so GIG. And it was interesting how you phrased it with the quite ambitious approach, with seeing California becoming a regulated state, and now just not denying, but giving the statement that we don't see it coming in 2020 before 2027. And as you mentioned, I also don't recognize any other company actually, and we've seen heavy investments, especially by the big companies based in the US, the big operators who spent nearly $700 just on the advertising campaign when it has been come to Prop 26 and Prop 27, and they didn't even include California within their overall statements, although they invested this heavy amounts into California as well. So as you mentioned, it's quite interesting that they just obviously chose this very ambitious statement, and now had to just turn this a little bit down.
Absolutely. And over to the final report today, which is Kindred. Now, Kindred, not that interesting to investors anymore, of course, because they have been they have had an offer to be acquired by a French leading operator here, La Française de Jeux, or FDJ. I hope I make my French friends not embarrass me because of my French pronunciations, but let's just call it FDJ. FDJ's market cap is around 6.6 billion euro, and they have made a over offer of around 2.5 billion of Kindred, which has been unanimously approved by the board of Kindred, but is still waiting to be approved by the shareholders, but is expecting to be approved. It's a very good offer of Kindred, and Kindred had obviously outset before that they are looking to be acquired, and they have been looking for a potential buyer, and this seems to be the best offer that Kindred will get. However, there are some interesting points here. We can see that revenues in Kindred is flat as well, which has to be seen as something positive, because Kindred has been undergoing some pretty significant cost-cutting exercises recently, and you would expect that from a company that is propping itself up to be sold. So Kindred has announced that they are shutting down operations in North America. That was a very expensive venture for Kindred that didn't turn out as they expected. They have been reducing headcount in the company as well. And so they managed to publish flat revenues, but EBITDA is up 20% because of the cost cutting that is taking place within the organization. Also, since we talked about Kambi just now, Kindred is about to start rolling out their own proprietary sportsbook, which they have been working on for the last couple of years, which means that they eventually will be leaving Kambi as a sports betting provider. So they started to stress test the platform in this quarter now already, so that they are planning to roll that out. I think one interesting point that I took with me from this particular quarterly report was the lower revenue in Sweden that was excused by the fact that they are seeing an increased competition from unregulated gambling operators. And I think that just underscores again the fact that there is a bit of a divide happening within the industry, with regulators that are kind of putting very stringent regulation on the operators, to the point where there's this divide happening where certain operators are diving headfirst into the regulation, and that's usually the major operators like Kindred, for example, like Betsson, like Entain, like Flutter. The biggest of the biggest are diving into the regulation, whereas some of the smaller operators, many of the smaller operators, are just not able to sustain themselves in regulated environments. So many operators are choosing to pursue an unregulated path, basically, to stay active in those markets. And it should be noted that in Sweden, for example, it's not illegal to operate in Sweden without a license, as long as you don't offer the Swedish language and .se address, and you kind of keep the operations without targeting Swedish players specifically. And obviously the channelization rates in Sweden is not expected to be incredible at the moment. And the expectation is, of course, that the competition from the unregulated environment that don't have to think as much about compliance, that don't have to think about advertising rules, that takes a lot of operational effort, they can just focus on conducting the operation and growing the operation. So they have a pretty significant edge against the regulated operators in many markets. And Kindred is acknowledging that fact in the quarterly report, that many of the unlicensed operators are taking ground essentially in Sweden. And I'm assuming as well in your market as well, Nico, that something similar is taking place over there.
Yeah. So, we see a positive correlation between more strict or tighter regulations and increase of black market operations. So the more market is regulated, the more players will actually move towards non-licensed operators. We've seen this in Germany, where we are speaking about a channelization rate of 45%. We've seen this in the Netherlands. We've seen this in Denmark. We are about to see this in the UK as well, and obviously we've seen this in Sweden already. So as you mentioned, usually stock listed companies, they are specifically going into the regulated markets, or they apply for licenses within markets they already operate in. And of course, they can't ditch out of these markets due to the fact that a significant amount of their revenues would go with this market exit as well. But I just want to add one more information about Kindred and their journey to zero as of now, which they already announced, if I'm not mistaken, in 2021, 2022, that they want just journey to zero means that they don't want to have, or they are aiming to have 0% revenues of customers who tend to have a problem, or which could be phrased as problem gamblers. As of now, the overall percentage fluctuates between 3.1 and 3.2%. As of now, they just reported 3.2%. So it just seems like they are stuck. It's just a movement to the side, and this is just something more to add on the overall numbers and the discussion about Kindred. You're muted.
There we go. Sorry.
Now
about
you're
that.
back.
Yeah, very ambitious target of Kindred for sure, to try to eliminate harmful gambling. But so far we haven't seen that much improvement on the numbers. They are floating around that 3% mark, and they have been doing so since the beginning. Although Kindred is saying that they do see improvement in the amount of interactions and interference that is being done now to protect the players that are potentially harmful for themselves when it comes to gambling. All right, Nico, we managed to go through and to dissect every single quarterly report here in a good way. I love it. As a final part today, Nico, we have next Valletta in 3 weeks' time, less than 3 weeks' time. And I'm sure you can see it on my stress levels here that it's getting closer and closer. You can kind of tell as we get closer that my appearance also appears a little bit more stressed. But Nico, you're coming over again. How what's the expectations from your side?
So first of all, meeting all my industry friends, and even more. So I attended your event, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago for the first time, or has it been 3 years ago? So it was a little bit, I wouldn't consider it as a niche event, but with your focus on the more Nordics, and content driven exhibition. It was just fun being there. The surrounding was great, or is still great, and I'm really looking forward to see and feel people which usually don't attend all the other exhibitions. So it will be nice, as said, talking to Todd once again. It will be nice talking to you once again, the overall team of Next.io. You increase the space significantly. So why don't you just walk us a little bit about the overall size? As said, you increase significantly within the very famous exhibition hall, and just walk us through this a little bit.
Yeah, we are very excited, Nico, obviously, and we are using the entire space of the Mediterranean Conference Center for the first time. We are expecting 5,000 delegates, and that's the goal is to try to sell out the event. For us, it's not all about the numbers. To try to make it bigger and bigger and bigger, because I don't think that's necessarily what the industry wants. But we want to make the show as relevant and as senior and as business friendly as we possibly can make it. So we are built on 3 pillars. We should have the most interesting thought leadership content of the industry. This is where you learn about tomorrow, about your industry, and you improve your career and you understand the industry better. We should have the most network-friendly environment so people can meet each other, deepen the relationships with each other, and ultimately do better business together, because we believe that business is just not conducted because of a 15-minute meeting. It is when you get to know someone, when you can build trust with someone, that you want to conduct business. And then third, it should just be the most fun and enjoyable event. People should look forward to this event, and I think that is the kind of perfect couple of ingredients that make a great event. So we have so many more surprises in store this year than what we did last year, and I really feel it's like the coming out year this year for the show, and I'm really excited to see you there, Nico. And are you talking on any of the panels?
Yes, of course. So I'm
Yes.
the next IO SWAT team. So whenever you just need a speaker last minute, I'm usually just taking a place. Now, I will be speaking. I did not yet see the agenda in full, but I'm pretty sure it will just be fun. But yeah,
Absolutely.
to put you a little bit on the hot seat. So what are the top 3 speakers which you personally are looking forward to and or are happy that you could finally sign these folks to attend the next?
Yeah, I mean that's easy, Nico. I think we have 2 active Formula One drivers speaking this year, and this is a partnership with Play and Go. So Play and Go is one of the headline sponsors of the Haas Formula One team, and so they managed to convince the drivers to attend next this year. So Kevin Magnusson and Nico Hülkenberg, absolute legends in the Formula One world, will be coming over from Italy on a private jet, coming to the event, speaking, and then flying back to Italy, where they are driving in the race that same weekend. So in the middle of their planning for the race, they're coming over for a little mini holiday here in Malta, and speaking at the event. And they are joined by the Formula One kind of legendary reporter, which is Natalie Pinkham. So she will be interviewing them live on stage. There's going to be a meet and greet. There's some other exciting things happening. Other than that, I saw just today, actually, we managed to book Ulrik Bengtsson, who is former CEO of Betsson Group, former CEO of William Hill. And he's an industry veteran that really has been in touch and in tune with industry for a number of years. So I'm really excited to see him speak as well. And other than that, there's another 300 speakers that I'm looking forward to see as well. It's hard to single anyone out, to be honest with you, but we're just very excited for the event now. So hopefully we'll see. I'm really looking forward to see you, Nico. I'm really excited to see everyone who's listening in today. And it's going to be a great show for sure. So 15th and 16th of May are the dates.
So will we also see, because there are rumors floating around as well, that you have a pretty decent DJ setup and DJ lineup. So will we see bring back Pontus, hashtag bring back Pontus. So will he be at the turntables once again, or is this something you want to keep private?
Yeah, no, actually, we will have to postpone Pontus. It's a bit unfortunate. Well, we have to say I'm very happy for Pontus, because he was scheduled to have a hip surgery, and that hip surgery was he actually managed to find an earlier date, which unfortunately corresponded with the next Valletta date. So the iGaming House Mafia, we teased about it, but they have a very particular rider. They're very difficult to deal with, the iGaming House Mafia. So they will be postponed to next year. But rest assured that they will be live and on stage when the time is right and when the time suits that trio. Yeah, we're not 23 anymore, that's for sure, Nico. Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for listening in today. It's been an absolutely fantastic session. Great to be back here with you, Nico. I feel like 3 years younger sitting here with you today, celebrating the 3 anniversary that we started off with back in the day in the clubhouse sessions. But here we are again, a little bit wiser, a little bit prettier, a little bit less hair, but everything is okay. Thank you so much, Nico. Let's go for pina colada.
Yeah, we're going for the pina coladas. I was just looking forward to this one, and to each and everybody, keep your fingers crossed. for Pontus going through a surgery, and we will send a lot of love to him. I'm just looking forward to bring back Pontus once again.
Bring back Pontus. Thank you so much, everyone.